One of the things that I find really frustrating right now is that we keep on hearing all of these stories about how Joe Biden was the oldest man in the world, his brain was falling apart, he never should have ran for president, and of course, Joe Biden was old. His age was definitely showing, especially in 2024, especially during that debate. But his time it's come and gone. Has anybody taken a look at Donald Trump, the current president of the United States? Because we continue to witness more and more unhinged behavior, and I think we should all be looking at it through a lens of Donald Trump's cognitive decline. He is losing his grasp on reality. And Jessica Tarlov was recently trying to explain this to her co-hosts on The Five, and it's just so hard to get through to these people because Donald Trump has the appearance of this energetic spirit. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip really quick, and then we will discuss. And if you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
And Donald Trump, I get it, he's very high energy. But when you actually read the transcripts of what he's talking about, he says, oh, Joe Biden's brain is absolute mush. He has stage 9 cancer, which is not real. Oh, by the way, I just aced a cognitive test. He loves bragging about that, man, woman, person, camera, TV. And we are also supposed to believe that he's 6'3" and 224 pounds, which makes him an NFL wide receiver. And we forgot, remember his original doctor who forged that letter about him? Like, come on here.
Yeah, she's exactly right. Donald Trump is no beacon of health. He's an obese 78-year-old, almost 79-year-old. He is very, very unhealthy, and his mind is really falling apart. But because, like I said, he has the appearance of energy, and because he was stupid to begin with, for whatever reason, people just give him leniency. It's harder to make the case that Donald Trump is experiencing cognitive decline because he wasn't smart to begin with, and he has energy that makes him appear as though he is vigorous, or whatever the word is that you want to use there. But I want to go ahead and take a look at this clip that Jessica Tarlov was talking about, because it is a sight to behold. Here is Donald Trump being asked about Biden's cancer diagnosis, and he goes on a 3-minute rant that we are going to discuss afterwards.
Do you want to respond to President Biden being diagnosed with cancer? Are you going to call your predecessor?
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. I just had my physical. You saw that. You saw the results of that particular test. I think that test is standard to pretty much anybody getting a physical, good physical. We had the doctors at the White House and over at Walter Reed, which is a fantastic hospital, do it. I did a very complete physical, including cognitive tests. I'm proud to announce I aced it. Got them all. I got them all right. You proud of me? Yes. Your husband would be proud of me for getting them all right. It's a little risk. If I didn't get them all right, these people would be after me. It would be not a good situation. But I think, frankly, anybody running for president should take a cognitive test. They say it's unconstitutional, but I would say in that particular case, having a cognitive test wouldn't be so bad. But when you take tests, medical, as a male, that test is very standard. I don't know if it's given to everybody, but it's given just about. And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the auto pen. But when they say that that was not good, they also, you have to look and you have to say that the test was not so good either. In other words, there are things going on that the public wasn't informed, and I think somebody's going to have to speak to his doctor, if it's the same, or even if it's 2 separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability, why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it's turned out that's not so. It's very dangerous. Look, this is no longer politically correct. This is dangerous for our country. Look at the mess we're in. You're talking about all these questions on Ukraine and Russia. That would have never happened. As an example, if I were president, it would have never happened. The other thing is you have to say, why did it take so long? I mean, when you this takes a long time, can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation, and I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, because I'll tell you, I don't know if it had anything to do with the hospital. Walter Reed is really good. They're some of the best doctors I've ever seen. I don't even know if they were involved, but a doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
I mean, what was that? Donald Trump does these streams of consciousness. He tries to make it through these answers the best he can, and he just strings all of these different thoughts together that kind of hit on the point that he's trying to make, but then stray away from it, then try to come back to it. His brain is broken. And I wasn't able to find the particular transcript for this answer that he gave, but I did write down a paraphrased version of what he just said. And I want to go ahead and go through that with you. I will try to go through it as smoothly as I can. I kind of broke it up into chunks. But okay, Donald Trump was asked about Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. As everybody knows, he has stage 4 cancer of the prostate. He has a Gleason score of 9, which means it's a very aggressive form of prostate cancer. And this is what Donald Trump had to say. Okay, everybody, this is just strange, but here it goes. He said, well, that's very sad. Why wasn't the public notified about any of this sooner? It takes just so long to get to stage 9. Except there is no stage 9 cancer. There is a Gleason score of 9, but this just proves that Donald Trump just cannot synthesize new information. It's just completely strange. He then goes on to say, well, I just had my physical and I did a really good job. You guys saw the results of those, didn't you? He says the prostate cancer test, well, that's a pretty standard thing when you're a guy of my age, but that isn't necessarily true because a lot of doctors stop testing for prostate cancer after the age of 75. Now, we can have arguments about whether that should be true for the president of the United States, but it's not necessarily uncommon for people in their 80s to not undergo PCR or the prostate cancer tests anymore. So then he goes on to say, well, we have really great doctors. I did my complete physical. I even did a cognitive test and I aced that too. You saw the results of that, didn't you? He then goes on to say, if anybody is running for office, I think, well, maybe they should do a cognitive test. But people say that would be unconstitutional. Then he jumps back to when we do these tests, when males of my age do these tests, you know, the prostate screening, that's pretty standard, and it takes so long to get to the stage 9. He mentioned stage 9 cancer again, which doesn't exist. He said, and this is the same doctor that hid Biden's cognitive abilities from the American people. But we don't necessarily know that that is true. I have never been provided any evidence that Biden has Alzheimer's or dementia. Yes, he looks old. He sounds old. But there is no evidence to suggest that he has mental decline like Donald Trump talks about it here. So then he moves on to the auto pen. And he said that that's becoming a very big deal. He said somebody else must have been operating it, and that's a really big deal. They must have been hiding stuff from us. He then says, why wasn't the cognitive ability discussed again? He says that again. And then he goes on to say, this is very, very dangerous for our country. I mean, just think about the Ukraine and the Russia war thing, which he continues to go back to over and over and over again in many of these different appearances. He says that war would have never happened if I were president. This is something that he continues to repeat. It just has absolutely no basis in fact. There's nothing to suggest that Russia was waiting until Biden got into office to invade a sovereign territory. It's just foolish. And then Donald Trump goes back to, it just takes so long to get to stage 9. We should find out what happened. And then he goes on to, Walter Reed is a really good hospital. And there must have been a doctor involved, maybe 2 doctors involved. Maybe we should ask them what is going on. But ultimately, it's really, really sad. So that is what Donald Trump had to say about a question about Biden's cancer diagnosis. That was more than 3 minutes. I think it was 3 minutes and 5 seconds long, I think is how long he answered. And do you see how it was a stream of consciousness, just moving from one topic to the next so fluently, but you can tell that his brain is not processing new information correctly? I mean, stage 9 cancer doesn't make any sense to anybody. I mean, it is all just wild. And like I said, because he says these things with energy, because he looks energetic, people give him a pass. And because he is such an idiot by default, because he was never really a deep thinker anyway, because he never really had a true grasp on many of these different issues or many of these different ideas, well, then that kind of gives him some plausible deniability anyway. And it's just all an absolute disaster. And then later on, after he gave that hysterical answer to a very simple question, this is just kind of the icing on the cake.
So, you want to help us out with this? You're the one that made it.
So this is Donald Trump not being able to open a metal box, I believe is what it was. And I think I got this clip from somebody on Twitter, and let me just read to you what they said, because I think it is perfect. This comes from the anti-Trump Canada handle, Canada Hates Trump, and they say, major breaking news. Man who aced his cognitive test and self-identified stable genius unable to open small black box. Per White House sources, boxes too woke, rigged by George Soros in Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I was gut laughing at that one. I thought it was absolutely perfect. Donald Trump claims all the time, or I guess we don't hear him much. He doesn't say it too often anymore, but he used to claim that he was a stable genius. He says that he aces his cognitive test. He's a beacon of health. He's just so much better than Biden. But then you look at performances like this, and you just have to ask yourself, is this really the guy we want handling our nuclear codes? Is this the guy we want heading up our military? Is this the kind of guy we want making decisions like cutting off federal funding to very needed programs, or firing tens of thousands of federal employees, or rounding people up without any due process, or shipping people out of the country to gulags in El Salvador, or shipping people off to South Sudan, a country that is on a brink of civil war? Is this really the guy that we want as president, making these very important decisions that are going to affect millions of people's lives? I mean, I wouldn't make that bet. Donald Trump is really losing his grip on reality. And I think we need to continue to point this out, even though it will be hard, because as I keep on saying, because he is such an idiot, and because he appears energetic in his performance or delivery of these things, for whatever reason, the American people just kind of give him a pass. I know that I think a majority of people do have concerns about his cognitive abilities, but I don't think I think it's one of those topics that we hit on every now and again, but it should be front page news every day, because this is really serious stuff. I think Donald Trump is truly losing his grip on reality. So I will leave it there for now, guys. Just something for you to think about. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that will just cover this type of crap up for Donald Trump. They will never speak about it day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want to see another demonstration of Donald Trump just losing his grasp on reality, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now with him and the South African president in the Oval Office. It is unhinged. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.